Welcome to the Public Works meeting. I'm joined with Greg Smith, my great colleague on this, and I'm Councilman Bill Rosendahl. And with the pleasure of my cohort here, I'd like to allow Mr. Labange, with great respect, to come up and deal with his two issues that are on the agenda. Mr. Clerk, could you kind of read what those ones are that are in CD? 6 and 9.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 6, motion Lavange Han relative to converting the alley without a name between Herkimer Street and Auburn Street to Avenel Terrace.
Okay, has anybody in this room been on that street at all? Okay, basically this is an alley, but just west of there, similar type street with a name on it called Avenel Terrace. When it's a street, people could park on it. When it's an alley, they can't. It's right adjacent to a public school. So since the street to the west, similar style, 20 feet in width, asphalt, all the way to the next street. I have them look at it and report back to your committee on the feasibility of designating a street. And to, same name.
Is it built to alley standards or?
No, it's a typical Silver Lake alley, rough on the edges, but, it's all right. We're proud of it. I used to run down it when I went to the school. My son runs down it, now he goes to the school. But I'm tired of people getting tickets unnecessarily. And this could then create an opportunity to make it a street so people could park up on it.
LAPD doesn't give tickets unnecessarily.
They don't. LAPD doesn't do it, but LADOT.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those guys.
Boy, we want to talk about them, especially after the president's visit that just happened. I have 3 questions for staff, for anybody. What is the process for naming alleys in the city? There he is.
Edmund Yu from Public Works Engineering. It takes an ordinance to name an alley, same as a street. So if this is the wish of the committee, then eventually there will be an ordinance going through the city council to name that, to create a name for that alley or street.
And our great city attorney, you'd crank that ordinance out, assuming we were to go in favor of it. All right, we got that one done. How would such an alley be converted? Does the word converted mean the same as to name the alley?
In the same ordinance, the city would need to designate that as a street rather than an alley. And as Council Member Labange mentioned, there are certain difference between an alley and a street. So the ordinance itself would call that out to make sure that from now on, that would become a street and whatever enforcement would be under the street.
City Attorney, are there any legal issues that should be considered? No. Great. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
So moved. Done.
Good.
So this will approve the motion.
The investigation, to do the investigation, or just do it? We just got the street made?
Well,
Yes.
We just did the conversion?
At it.
This has to report back. You want
We
to?
have to get a report back, but as soon as we report back, we'll expedite and do the forthwith and all that kind of
Thank you so much, appreciate that.
It's my
Thank
indeed
you.
pleasure. Motion number 9.
Yeah,
Item number 9, motion Lavange Han Weezer relative to directing the Bureau of Street Lighting with the assistance of the Los Angeles Police Department, City Attorney, Department of Transportation, and Department of General Services, and in consultation with the affected council districts, to report to council in regard to the recent rash of copper wire theft of city underground wires. Also referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Well, here are a couple of questions first. Please explain what the police department is doing to resolve this problem.
well, before, just to let you know,
Sure.
it's a national problem now at cities throughout.
I know.
You're familiar, in
Yep.
San Jose and Minneapolis and others. And in fact, I asked the CLA to look at, because the city attorney's office in Sacramento called me, I believe Senator Calderon, if that's correct, may have some legislation if he covers Monrovia. Small cities had this problem. And just the other day, Bill, one of the television stations had a story about a Little League team that were going to play their baseball games at night, but someone stole the wire. And I think the city of Ontario or Upland or even San Bernardino, one of them, wherever it was, they were able to pay for the replacement lights. It's extremely horrible situation, and nobody better than our great director of street lighting. If we could call and bring it to our office.
Tom, you can even sit here if you want. We'll get rid of Alarcon's.
No. I need his vote.
No, you were very good here when you were here, Tom.
thank
That's
you.
all I'm saying.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Council Member Ed Ibrahimian, the Director of Street Lighting. I think you've seen the report. Maybe I should take a couple of minutes to more or less summarize
Please do.
the background and
Sure.
also the report. Since last June, we've seen a significant increase in the wire theft from city's street lighting system. And because we've always had isolated incidents throughout the city during last few years, but nothing like this, because of the cost of copper rising, we've seen this happening throughout the country, frankly. Just to give you numbers, to date, we have 720,000 feet of wire missing from just street lighting system. That's 720,000 feet of wire. Just to replace the wire, the cost of wire is $550,000 that we are missing. It's impacted 1,600 street lights that are out because of wire missing from the system. And for us to go back and replace the wire and restore the lights, we're looking at $1.2 million cost for us to be able to restore all the lights
We're up
that
to
are out.
1.7 million already. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, 1.2 right now, but
half a
it's
million.
right. No, the total is $1.2 million. There was a motion introduced by Councilmember Labange. There was a task force put together. Task force members included Bureau of Street Lighting, LAPD, the board, Bureau of Street Services, CLA's office, City Attorney's office, GSD, DOT, DWP. We met twice on this. And the report that you see is as a result of our discussions, and we came up basically with some recommendations that are included towards the end of the report. The main recommendations that I need to pursue, frankly, personally, to be able to restore the lights back on is funding. And that's something that I don't think we mentioned it in the report, or this report is being forwarded to Budget and Finance. I think we need, I'm requesting this report to be referred to the Budget and Finance because this is just unprogrammed work for me. There is no way we can address it right now. It's impacting our regular maintenance and repair activities because we have to go out there, work on these pull boxes, make them secure. Actually, what we do, we put cast iron lids on old pull boxes and weld them shut, and so the wires don't get stolen again. It's a huge problem. We've also come up with new ideas. In the city, for many, many years, we've used only concrete pull boxes, and they're not lockable pull boxes. There's new technology out there. There's composite pull boxes where they have two bolts where we can lock them so they're not easily accessible. So that's something that we're looking at to use for all of our future projects. We are looking at possibly looking into marking our wire. And I brought some of the wires with me so you'll have an idea. Those are different sizes of wires that we have in our system that are being stolen right now. There were some suggestions from the police department to maybe go back to marking our wires, City of LA. This is what we used to do in the past, many, many years ago. We're not doing that anymore currently.
The one problem you're going to find, and as I recall this going on, I saw a special on this not long ago, is in the Philippines, they're doing that, and what they've done is they just go out and take these big piles of wire and burn the covering off them.
Yes,
Put it
that's
in a
what
big
they-
fire.
Actually, what they do here out in the field, when they pull it out, they have a bucket and there's a fire, and they just melt the
melt right
insulation
off.
and they just take the copper.
Right.
And that's what we hear.
Chief Bratton was fiery mad, speaking of fire, about this, because he's very upset, because he knows street lighting is a component for good public safety. And he suggested that we get tough on where they, quote, fence this.
Right.
And require that there be a change in the Penal Code 344 that would require a thumbprint, similar like a pawn shop when you come in. Because they're taking it off the street, and we got to cut the cycle. Steve Cooley's very upset. The district attorney's office has been very helpful. So I think what we should do is, I truly want to thank the working group, but I want to thank you for your leadership. On Martin Luther King's birthday, I rode a bicycle over the Hyperion Bridge, which one time, and they got beautiful brass streetlights. They stole they stole the whole pole and everything off of there for that. And it was horrible, but I went down on the river, and this is a great bikeway on the river, but it's completely dark at night because they've stolen these things. So we got to get tough, instruct the city attorney's office to work with the DA and draft the language to insert in the penal code a thumbprint requirement for those who sell copper wiring. And this is a national problem now, and it's affecting us now. When we go before Budget and Finance, for them to say there's $1 million of need, they're not going to be able to find it, and it's going to be dark. So it's unsafe.
Great,
So,
thank you, Tommy, for that.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, LA River Bikeway, Elysian Valley, Boyle
Right.
Heights, Echo Park, Montecito Heights.
Wilmington and Janice Hahn's
Wilmington,
district.
I know, Harbor City, Southeast LA, and other places are directly impacted by it. And, you know, instead of the police coming up and talking about it now, when this gets referred to the Budget Committee, we would like the LAPD to respond not only to what Mr. Labange just said, but the overall questions
yeah.
like, please explain what the police department is doing to resolve the problem. If you want to come up, Harry.
Yeah.
You're-
Well, not Harry, get the captain now. Come on now, Harry is
Wait a
just.
minute, I didn't see Bill Williams
I
there.
know.
Bill Williams used to be the
What?
captain over the
Pacific Division, a great captain. I know.
Bill Williams.
And he's got a great detective back there. Good, I'm giving my seat to the detective.
Tommy, we got other things. to-
I know, it will take you 1 minute now. He
All right,
came all the
come
way
on up,
across the
come on
street.
up, let-
Remember what's on their badge, this city hall, they own this city hall.
Tommy, you're the best. Okay. Welcome. Did they promote you, I hope?
Still Captain 3, but
Well, we gotta-
very, very happy about that, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good, fine, thank you.
As was stated earlier, we've worked in this task force, and I'm the commanding officer for the record of Commercial Crimes Division. And in commercial crimes, we have a unit, what's called the Metal Theft Unit, that's part of the burglary section of our division. And what we've done is put out information to the various areas where we're involved, circulars, and we've also worked with the public relations in terms of working with the council office, Councilman Labange's office, and putting out information to the public in terms of calling 911 if they see individuals in various areas doing things in trucks, because it's been our information that they've been utilizing trucks and so forth, and they're pulling this wiring out of the street lights, and to call the police where we can make it an emergency call to respond to the location. As of the 11th of January, we've made 3 arrests. All of them have been in Newton area, however. Regarding
Valley made some arrests
well,
too.
the Valley made a little different in terms of copper, but it was other material. But they've made some arrests, and that's word has been out, and that was publicized, and the Newton Division has made some arrests too. So we're putting the word out to the uniformed officers. Our metal theft unit, even though it's not as big as I'd like it to be, but they're out there keeping it, at least liaisoning with the areas, putting that information out.
What do you think of what Mr. Labange said about Cooley and the idea of some?
We think that will be beneficial. Matter of fact, in addition to that, we would like to see if we could get some assistance with the California Redemption Centers. They really are
Fiona Ma, the great assemblywoman from the city of San Francisco, has an assembly bill. We're going to introduce a motion. I wonder if you both would second it to support that and make it tougher on that. And this is a fine detective here.
that's Lieutenant Tom Kirk, who is also in charge of our burglary special section.
What's the detective? What's the detective's name?
Detective Tom Mann.
Tom Mann, who does city property.
Yeah.
He's the detective who really, not that you're not, but
He's doing a
he's the
exceptional
person
job.
going to work after stealing city property. You know.
Tell us about your reflective point on this.
Well, I concur with, with the captain. We discussed this, and we discussed it at length with Mr. Ibrahim, and when we developed the committee report, we worked very hard together as a team, and I think everybody that's worked on this has done a really good job. The DA has already drafted a draft proposal to enhance ferrous metal, or excuse me, non-ferrous metal issues related to CRV and things. It's not just copper, it's brass too, and I didn't know it until Tom educated me. Not Tom Labange, Tom Mann, who works for me. I wouldn't have that lack of respect for the councilman. Tom Mann educated me that brass is about between 65 to 80% copper. I didn't know that. He educated me. That's why there's a problem with brass. So.
What I would like to do with our city attorney is work quickly on a draft ordinance type strategy, and when we come to budget and finance, have a draft of it so we don't have to say in that committee report back with the draft, because in my opinion, the quicker we get moving on this, the more teeth we put into pieces of city ordinances, the more we empower our officers to do the job, the better off we're all going to be. So if you could do that collaborating, Mr. Smith and I just so happen to be on Budget Committee, and we'll be in the same position to want to see what we've discussed here today there, and as much as we can expedite it, we would love to expedite it. Mr. Smith?
No, I'm support. I just wanted to suggest to the clerk that we meld in Council File 074130, which is a motion I introduced a week after Mr. Labange is dealing with registering scrap metal dealers and people that are going to recycling centers. So it's on the same topic that
Dovetails.
you've already got in your report. We can close out both those files.
Fabulous. So moved. Second?
Thank you very much.
So the action then of this committee is to refer this item to Budget and Finance along with the item referred to by Councilmember
But
Smith.
also to get the city attorney to draft an ordinance that then can be worked with the city attorney of the Budget Committee, so that when we have that meeting, we'll have a lot to work with, so we can expedite the process.
Well, we coming back to this committee, or we gotta go?
Public safety or budget?
Public safety.
not-
It's also referred to Public Safety
It's both,
right
huh?
now.
Good.
Public safety. It's go to public safety money, they go to budget. We'll have a tough
Yeah.
time coming to
Fine
budget.
with me if public safety will take that same kind of aggressive.
We hope so.
By the time it comes to budget, I'd like to move on it.
Right, okay,
Great.
good. Thank you.
Great.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Good
Always
job.
a pleasure. Breath of fresh air, that Tom Labange. Okay, we've done 2 items, and I see on the consent, Mr. Smith, item number 1 and item number 10. And if that's okay with you, we would move those 2 forward as well.
So moved.
Item number 1 and item number 10 have been moved. And I've been asked to consider item number 7, Mr. Smith, as a courtesy of the managers from BOE that we want to send back into the hard work out there in their leadership roles. That's okay.
Sir.
Okay. So we're going to then go to item number 7. Adam, could you read that for us, please?
Okay. Item number 7, City Administrative Officer reports relative to the construction projects report for fiscal year 2007-08, also referred to Personnel and Budget and Finance Committees.
Good afternoon. Alma Gibson with the CAO's office. As you know, starting this fiscal year, 07-08, we began transmitting these construction project reports regularly because they basically consist of recommendations for funding adjustments related to the city's construction projects. And obviously, these adjustments are needed in order to make sure that the projects are kept on track. Before you is our third construction projects report, which identifies funds to be transferred to GSD for construction work to be performed on various projects, as well as staff cost reimbursements and personnel adjustments for those projects funded by GOB bonds and MICLA financings. All transfers and appropriations are based on existing authorized funds and grant reimbursements as well as revenues. There is no cost to the general fund. Also included is an addendum report, which includes financial transactions for projects that were not included as part of the original report. And then separately, for your information, our office is in the process of reviewing the final draft of the Capital Improvement Program Policies and Procedures, and it should be released this month. And we're also in the process of producing a 5-year capital improvement program report, which will provide detailed information regarding the city's projects, the city capital projects, that is. However, in the meantime, this report before you includes a condensed version of the 5-year plan, which lists the municipal facility projects which are either currently in conceptual stage or in construction or have been recently completed. Now, currently, we roughly estimate future funding needs in excess of $218 million for existing projects and $992 million for conceptual projects. However, again, given the city's existing financial situation, obviously these projects are going to need to be prioritized with consideration to the available funding. So now we have department representatives available to help answer any of the questions that you have specific to each of these projects.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I was just looking to see the projects that were at Animal Services, were any of them to correct the deficiencies that were identified by Mr. Zine at the, I think it was Northeast Animal Services Station.
Ramon Soto with the CAO's office. So, this report was written before the rains occurred. I know that the BOE has been before the Public Safety Committee and was instructed to report back in 30 days on what steps they were going to take to repair those facilities.
Okay, so that's, I just wanted to, I noticed there's some animal services here, that's not it.
That's correct.
That'll still be later. Okay.
I don't have any questions on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moved. Okay. Mr. Adam.
We can return to item 2, or as you so desire.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay.
Item 2. See, they're all going back to work, folks.
Item number 2, City Engineer Report relative to the vacation of Washington Boulevard and Second Avenue Vacation District, Vacation E1401040.
Bureau of Engineering, Sir Chadad. We agree with the Council District 10's recommendation to delete conditions 4A and 5A from the report, so we don't have to widen Washington Street. And if,
Is anybody opposed to that here in the audience? Anybody want to speak on it? It's up to you, Mr. Smith.
So moved.
So moved. That's item number 2.
Item number 3, City Engineer Report relative to the vacation of Grant Street and Southern Pacific Drive, Vacation District, Vacation E1400813.
This is Ms. Hahn's district.
yeah, Sir Chadad, Bureau of Engineering again. This was, the reason it was called special was there was an objection to it, but there was the petitioner or the objectioner decided that it's okay after some revisions were made, so.
I love those kind of things. Okay, Mr. Smith? So moved. We're moving fast now.
Item number 4, City Engineer Report, Final Environmental Impact Report and Statement relative to the vacation of the L-shaped alley between Hope Street and Grand Avenue and 11th Street and 12th Street, Vacation E1401067.
Bureau of Engineering again. Yeah, this is an easy one, too. This was just a clerical fix from last meeting that we just want to make sure that the address, correct addresses were included.
Nobody's complaining about that?
No objections.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, we met with the stakeholders that had concerns last time, as I recall.
No, this was not that issue. This was just a missed address on an adjacent property that was included in the report.
All right, I'll move.
That is item number 4, so moved now.
Item number 5, City Engineer Report, Negative Declaration relative to the vacation of McFarland Avenue between D Street and E Street.
Bureau of Engineering again. There was 2 objections from 2 different railroad companies that were worried about this vacation. One of the railroad companies reported back with a letter saying that the vacation is acceptable, and the other railroad company we haven't heard back from. But there are revisions in the vacation report that appeal to the railroad company. And if you have any more questions, BOE staff is here to answer.
Is the railroad company around? Did we speak to them on the phone?
Edmund, would you like to come up and
There's
answer
an
that?
answer to that.
What BOE has done is that we put in a condition for the vacation to reserve a easement for the railroad track. This is an active railroad track in this area, so basically the surface of the railroad would not be impacted because of the vacation.
Okay, and they're aware of that?
Yes,
Okay, and you've heard nothing back?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Move it.
So moved.
That brings us up to, so item number 6. That would be item number 8 we're up to then.
That's correct. No, we didn't do 8.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't do it.
We know Roz, though.
Item number 8, Bureau of Street Services Report relative to BOS's off-budget program status.
That's true. Please tell us about it. And I like the ash on your head. Remember, man, dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. If anybody realized that, there'd be less ego insanity on this earth. Okay? That was just personal editorial. Take it off the record.
Okay, Ed Rose with the CAO's office. We were requested by the committee to report on the Bureau of Street Services off-budget construction program. with particular emphasis on time-sensitive projects that need to be completed during the current fiscal year, lest they lose funding for those projects. Currently, there's 12 projects that fall into that category, totaling about $6 million, $6.4 million. And currently, we looked at the program and the resources and staffing that the Bureau needed. Originally, we were about to recommend additional resources for the Bureau. However, in light of the city's current financial situation, we are now recommending that the Bureau absorb the workload within existing resources. As far as funding goes...
What will that do to other projects?
Well, before I defer to Ron, there is recommendations in the mid-year report that you'll probably hear tomorrow with particular concern about loss of gas tax revenues from the state. If those taxes do or don't make our budget, then there would be reductions made in staffing for the unimproved alleys and other programs like that. Vacant positions that would be created by the loss of those gas tax monies could be applied to these this particular program, and that would assist the Bureau in completing that work. Ron, would you like to weigh in on that?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Councilman Smith. Ron Olive, Assistant Director of the Bureau of Street Services. We concur with the CEO report. We understand the timing is unfortunate now. We understand the current financial crisis that we're under, and hopefully after tomorrow we're going to learn more. We would just like to basically add and echo the CEO's recommendations that we keep the door open on not only the additional construction positions, but the design and the project management positions that were considered before. Perhaps maybe even 90 days we can report back with a status report on where we are and what maybe can be accommodated, because we still absolutely need these resources. This list of 12 that's shown on attachment 1, we're in pretty good shape overall. The first one there, the Broadway Figueroa, there's probably $750,000 that we're not going to be able to spend this fiscal year, but we do have an extension request in already, as we do for another $3.5 million project that's not shown here, the Chinatown Streetscape project, which we already knew we weren't going to be able to complete this fiscal year. We've been given the verbal, looks pretty good, chances are good, but we're not going to find out in writing until April or May from Caltrans. I think it's even with the Federal Highway Administration for consideration now, so we're not going to know till April or May whether those can be extended. The other projects are in pretty good shape. The CD4 Senior Center project currently was only funded for $50,000, so that, and there's really, it can't be phased, so this project will probably either be reprogrammed or canceled altogether because it's short funded. The 2 Cycle 4 smart crosswalk projects are currently, the paperwork's still pending, getting approval. They're DOT managed, LA DOT managed, so we don't have to go ahead to start there no matter what resources we have. And the last safety loop project shown there, the Temple Street, really has a deadline to start by July 1st, so we're in good shape there. It's not a completion. But again, the one major project not shown here is Chinatown, but there's really not much we can do at this point, even if we were given the resources requested. So
Let me read something to you, just to confirm this. There's currently a backlog of 68 grants and other special funded projects that total $50 million. Of significant importance is the potential loss of $7 million if these 12 projects are not completed between March 31st, 2008 and June 30th, 2008.
That was a correct statement when we first submitted our report back in, I believe it was around July. The numbers have changed somewhat. As you know, Councilman, the Wilshire Boulevard, the Small Stars Program grant is compelling us to start that work, $11 million worth in October, so you can add on to the $68 million. There's some other CDBG monies that have been thrown at us this year, some large sums for additional sidewalk repair on some of our streetscape projects. Those are going to have to be reprogrammed, so I don't think we're going to lose those, but they have to be, again, reprogrammed, deferred. Hopefully we'll get them reprogrammed. But those numbers are fairly accurate, yes.
Yeah, because our bottom line, obviously, is we don't want to lose any money. We want to make sure we spend the money so we can do the projects we need to do. Whatever we need to expedite getting that done is in everybody's best interest.
And we just want to assure you that our focus, where it really hurts is our flexibility now. There's a lot of folks that want to have their projects moved up, folks like the CRA, the LA Unified School District, some nonprofit groups with some environmental grant projects. We're having to say no or defer those, and especially the council always don't like hearing no on moving projects up, but we have to really focus on the ones that have hard deadlines that the city's going to lose money on.
Yeah, let me read 3 questions for the record, but
Sure.
I'd love your answer for it. For Bureau of Street Services, what is the status of the overall program? Have you received the positions you have requested?
The 13 design/project management positions that were approved in this year's budget, we are still, again, we're hoping to keep that door open and ask the CEO to reconsider some of the levels, the pay grades, if you will. We have hired a couple of those positions. Several more don't make sense unless we get the project managers that are dedicated to the projects, folks like senior management analysts and the senior systems analysts. We don't have work for those folks unless we have the project management staff. The construction positions, obviously, that we requested here, the 40-some-odd, 42 positions, we're just going to have to wait till the financial climate gets a little better.
Second question, I've heard that the off-budget program continues to grow. Is this true?
Yes.
And explain why.
Again, there are a number of within the city entities and outside that have outside funding sources that would like to partner with the city or would like Bureau of Street Services to design and construct their projects, both because it's much quicker to implement. Again, you don't have the formal design process. We have the design-build process, so we have the construction forces in-house. You avoid the advertised bid and award, the permitting, some of the other things that might add a year onto the schedule. Our forces, again, can do the work more economically. We're experienced on these types of streetscape, sidewalk enhancement projects, and I believe those are some of the reasons that a lot of folks are knocking on our door.
My third question for the CAO, describe how we're going to expend these grants. Doesn't it make sense that if we are under tight budget constraints, that these grant-funded projects would be the best ones to pursue?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, anything that's not general funded would be certainly the first priority that we would pursue.
It's paying for the buck.
Exactly.
Yeah, have we looked at, for next year's budget, how you're going to front fund some of this stuff?
I don't think we,
Got that far down the road yet? Or?
Yeah, the front funding on, we do have, and I think the report explains on the Safety Loop program, which is the new program. Again, it's about $12 million, about half resurfacing, half streetscape projects. We do have a process now in place for getting front funding from the Public Works Trust Fund, and then the grant will pay that back, as well as the match fund. I think we're still trying to figure out, is it going to be Prop C or something else? The MTA projects, the Safe Routes to School grant projects, there's been a process in place through the annual, or the semi-annual now, Transportation Grant Fund report that LADOT is the lead on, and we're part of that report. So we get our front and match funding through Prop C mainly through that report.
Okay.
I'd just like to read something into the record here, which is already in the record, but for the on-air folks. The city has projected a deficit for 2007 and 2008 of $154.9 million. In our 2007-2008 mid-year adjustment and financial status report, which was just issued January 28, 2008, we recommended that $117.3 million worth of adjustments to offset this deficit. As a result, the remaining 2007-2008 deficit is estimated at $37.6 million. In addition, the governor's proposed budget removes $17.7 million in gas tax revenues from the city in 2007-2008, and another $11.9 million in 2008-2009. These funds are used to fund Bureau operations. As a result, several of the Bureau's programs are being considered for potential significant reduction in the next few months. Therefore, to reduce the potential for layoffs in the Bureau, we recommend that the Bureau be instructed to absorb this work, which you've just said, divert existing employees from general fund or gas tax supported activities to perform this work funded by grants. should the state restore the gas tax funding or the council and the mayor decide that the Bureau operations are of significant priority to maintain them in their existing level regardless of city financial situation, then we would revisit our recommendations. Pretty much covers where we're at. Okay. Do we have a motion on this? So moved. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That is all.
Is that it? Anybody else want to say anything about anything under the sun? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.